So I wonder which one it is. Are young voters, Gen Z voters especially, more skeptical of the vice president or more enthusiastic about her candidacy and it just not being Joe Biden?
Well, it just might be both. So Gen Zs are skeptical, I think, understandably so, about many things, right, that they are experiencing in our society and politically, the times that they have grown up in, right, and such polarized times. They care very much about their political world and seeing a just world, but they don't necessarily have the buy-in, right, for our current political structures, and they want to make sure that who they support, if they're going to support somebody and if they're going to vote, is actually going to deliver. And at the same time, they can be enthusiastic about certainly the historic nature of what we assume is the nomination of Vice President Harris. And they can be excited about the possibilities, right, going forward in terms of what they're going to hear from her and the change that they may see from her versus Biden when they thought they were having to choose between President Biden and Donald Trump, which many were not enthusiastic about, of course.
Yeah, and it's an important point you raised that part of the question here is just whether or not they're going to decide to vote at all. Is it a candidate that helps them make that decision, or is it an issue that drives them to the polls?
Well, let's start off with the fact that in any given election, usually the overwhelming majority of young people do not participate, or in presidential general elections, maybe we can get close to half of eligible young people, right? Adult citizens, let's say age 18 to 24. So we're already starting with an uphill battle. Young people do vote, they do participate, they do care about the electoral process, but it's hard to get a large percentage, right, actually at the ballot box, because often they don't see why voting is an actionable step on an issue they care about. Again, that disconnection from the political process. But then when they do engage, right, it can be a candidate. A recent example, Bernie Sanders had a lot of support from the youth vote. It can be an issue. A lot of young people concerned, of course, right now at a national level around the Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza. It can be racial, social justice issues. So the list can go on. I think for each individual young person, it depends on what, right, they prioritize, what matters to them. And if they believe, and I say if, this is really important, it's not that they're apathetic to voting at all. It's if they believe that taking the step to vote actually will bring about the change that they seek, and that they're not just participating in a political system that actually might do more harm than good, as some young people are concerned about.
Well, it's fascinating, and you've done some fascinating research in part that pertains to young people and just how the demographics of the electorate have shifted since the last time we did this, which was the last time Kamala Harris, I would remind our audience listening and watching this program, ran for president, was in the 2020 election cycle. What has changed from 2020 to now, knowing that there was a pandemic in the mix here?
Well, America's diversified, period, right, in terms of race and ethnicity over the last number of decades. And between 2010 and 2020, we'll just look at the population change, right? This is the most stable numbers that I can give you. Overall, we had a 7% increase in the U.S. population, but we actually saw a decline in the white population, and we saw big percentage increases, over a third for Asian Americans, about 23% for Latinos, 6% for Black voters. When you look at the eligible voter population, adult citizens, you see the increase for whites. You don't see a decrease, but you see a basically flat or very tiny increase for whites. And you still see some big increases in the eligible voter population when we look at Latinos and Asian Americans, and some smaller increases for Blacks. And those trends have just continued through 2024. We're just ever diversifying in different ways to different degrees around the country. We should note that. And what that all led to in 2020, actually to now, I should say, the percentage of the eligible voter population that is of color, that's Black, AAPI, and Latino combined, is 30%. So again, 30% of adult citizens eligible to vote in this country. If we look at actual voters in 2020, because we do have disparities in turnout rates, actual voters were just a little over 22% of color. But still a significant portion. And what's really key here for 2024 is that we've got 34 million eligible voters of color in the United States, Black, Asian American, Latino combined, that didn't vote in 2020. Eligible to vote, but didn't vote in 2020. And that's really the opportunity for the Harris campaign, for the Trump campaign, for local and state races, right, to mobilize. And of course, beyond just who wins, it's important for our democracy to have a representative electorate and to see more representation versus the population.
Yeah, well, that's why it's all the more noteworthy that the woman in question we're talking about, the presumptive Democratic nominee, is not just a woman, but a woman of color at that. Just quickly, Professor, before we let you go, since we began this conversation about Gen Z, it was brought to my attention earlier today. For those listening on radio, you may not see this, but I'm wearing brat color. And I've heard a lot about Kamala Harris being brat. What does that mean? Or is this just a way in which we're seeing her campaign resonating on social media already?
Well, I think you're seeing a lot of social media hits or numbers just because a very well-known influencer said, I think it was just yesterday, that she is brat. So that's a positive for many young people. The question is, will it actually impact their vote? I will say, again, young people are pretty savvy. I think maybe it gets people to pay attention, maybe more young people to pay attention. It certainly gets media coverage, right? You're asking me this question. And maybe if people come to her, right, maybe rethink her, she reintroduces herself. So any type of attention in that way is probably positive. But voters still need to see the goods. Young voters still need to see the goods.
All right, it's a very good point. Still waiting for a firm definition of what exactly it means to be brat and whether or not I consider myself brat as well.
Best source on that.